Hello everyone. In previous video we covered how can we write a golden test for our row element, and now in this video we'll cover the remaining part of the home screen with test. So far we have written test to showcase the task list and the changes we made to the row item here by creating the circle and having a golden test for it. Now we'll write test case of the remaining part of the home screen. So before we decide what kind of test we want to run, we need to check what kind of code path is still remaining or the code which has not been tested yet. So first we'll run the coverage here, and then we'll generate a report out of it. And here is the report. So first we need to figure out what are the branch which we are missing in the test. So currently we are focusing on home screen, so we'll go to the home screen here and we'll check the home.dart, which is basically covering 53% of the code coverage. So we'll go into home.dart, and then here we see that some of the line has been already covered, but some of the line like update task by project, update task by label, navigation here, selecting from the drawer, and there is many code which is not being tested yet. So it's clearly giving us the indication that which part of the code is not tested, so we have to write test against that. But before directly jumping into writing tests for those missing part, first we need to understand that what actually are the code path which we are missing. Does covering tests for those add values? So here we see that first we have update task by project and update task by label. So if we go to this function and see where it has been being called, we see that it's called on side drawer when we select a project, and there's also one for a label when we select a label. You can see that from here when you click on a side drawer here, you can see there's a project and there is a label. So basically when we select a project or a label, it filter out those tasks for us. So basically this has been done by this side drawer and this two functions. Let's start writing tests for this because this is filtering part of our app, which is important. It would also add a value because whenever we try to filter task by projects or label, we have a test for it. So how do we get started? First we need to understand the flow. The flow is basically that you click on a side drawer, you open a project, you click on the selected project, and it will filter out those projects. So we need to write a test in that flow. So let's just write that test. So we'll go into our home test here and we'll write our first test here, like test widget, basically which says task based on project. Then we'll just copy paste this because we want to load the home test screen. So now we load our home screen with the fake database we already have. And now instead of finding those widget, as I said, so as per the flow, first we need to click on this side drawer. So I'll just write here, click on side drawer, and then when we click on this, we need to click on this project as well. So what we can do is I'll just do a tab by finding the text called projects, await and pump and settle, wait for it. And then when we click on a project, we also need to click on that project item. So in our case, we'll try to have Android project, and when we click on it, we'll see the task here. So what we can do is we can just check if that text is available and the task name there. So this is basically our flow where we load the home screen with the fake database, we pump it, then we click on a side drawer, which we'll do later. Then we click on this project, and then we click on the actual project name, and then we expect that project to be found on the home screen. Now since this tap and pump settle will be pretty much common, so let's extract that into a function. So I'll go to the helper class and I'll write an extension function basically on a widget tester, which basically tap and settle for all the repetitive case which we are doing here. So it will just tap it and settle it. So go back here and we'll just replace with tap and settle and tap and settle. This is how basically you can start to extract utility function for test. So now click on a side drawer. So as we seen in first example, we were solving the completed task bug. So to click on a side drawer, if we go to the home screen, or if we go to our material app, we are not able to find the icon which basically allow us to click on a side drawer. It's like the icon is directly inbuilt into this material app. So one way we could do it is like we did it on our first video, where in order to find that button, we just added a key. So you can add a key on that button and just tap on it and you can open that drawer. But let's do little different this time. So instead of clicking on a drawer, so there is also another way to open a drawer, which is basically if you swipe from here, you can just open the drawer instead of clicking it here. So let's try this as a new thing. So in order to do that, Flutter API provides a drag listener, which basically drag on your screen, and we want to give a location that where it can start dragging from. So in our case, it's the whole material app and we want to start from the left. So we'll go with tester, and what we can do is we can get the top left and we can find by type material app, and then we want to provide an offset that how much we want to drag it. So here we'll provide an offset of 300 by 0, which is basically swiping our screen from here to here, and it will open the drawer. Now let's run this test. It says 0 projects found on tab, could not find matching. Okay, so here we forgot to pump it because the frame will change after drag. So it says that a call on tab exactly one with Android that would not hit the test on specified widget. The test is failing because it is not able to find this Android text. So the reason being because we don't have a way to provide the list of projects. So the obvious way would be to solve this would be just go here, click on a project, then add project, and just add a project here, go back and then come again and then filter it. But this will lead to a lot of problem, and it will not a good way to write a test because it covers a lot of flow. Like one test should focus on one thing, but it will do a lot of things. And also we are not using the actual database, we are using a fake app database here. So we can leverage that. So instead of going through all that process, we just fake the project list from this database and just try to test that on clicking on it, it's properly shows the task which are supposed to be shown there. So here we'll just fake the things which are required or necessary. Apart from that, we'll just skip all of that. So if we want to fake the project, we need to check the code base, how it's fetching the projects. So we go to the home screen, then we go to side drawer, and if we see how it fetches the project, here is the build project and it's building project from project list and showing it here. So we need to figure out where this project list coming from. And so if we go to the project list at all, so here is the method which is basically gets the projects and update it here. Now we see the first problem which we encountered earlier is the dependency problem. So it's directly getting it from the app database instead of the fake one which we have created. So it's not able to showcase it here. Even though if we fake our project here, it won't be showing it up here because it's using the app database.get, the actual database, which does not work in test. So first we need to replace this instance with the fake database. And one of the techniques we used earlier, 3 of the techniques, the simple one I would here is to use the dependency injection. So instead of extend and override and introducing a static method, we'll use the dependency injection mechanism, which is way much more simpler to use here. So what we'll do here is we'll inject our database here, And what we'll do is that, as we did earlier in the home screen, where if the database is null, we'll get it from the actual database. So on the test we can fake it, and in production it will get the actual database. So we'll just copy this and we'll just paste it here, and we'll get this app database from here. So now when we pass the app database instance inside this, it will take that, else it will get from app database.get. So we need to replace this with widget.app database. Now it will get the app database from the instance. And now if we go to the side drawer here, we'll pass the app database which we are getting from the home screen to here, so that whatever we're providing on the home screen will pass it down to here. So don't worry about prop drilling here, like we are just getting the app database from home screen to the side drawer, and then if there's some other part of side drawer which require app database, then you need to inject it there. So don't worry about that initially. Our main focus is to make the home screen fully testable, and then we can refactor it later into some better structure by using some third-party library like called Getit or RiverPod, which basically handles all this dependency management for us, and also provide APIs to fake those very easily. Now let's go to our home test and run this. It still failed because cannot find Android. Now since we have fake it, we still haven't added a fake project here, so we'll just go into side drawer and see that it uses the get project method. So we'll just override that, just get project here. Now so we have override this get project, so I'll just return a fake project and I'll just make this async. So it will create a project called Flutter and provide a color blue, and it will just return those list of project. And now since it's using Flutter, I need to replace this here with Flutter, and here it will also find the Flutter. And now let's just run the test. So now it's failing here, which basically says exactly one matching node in a widget tree, 0 widget with Flutter. So now we are able to click on the project, but we are not able to find this Flutter here, which basically was this. So why it's not happening? Let's go to the home screen, and if we click on the update task by project, it calls this method and it calls the database.get task by project. So now here the get task by project is called, but we have not created a fake override of it, hence it's just giving a null and it's not showing it up there. So what we need to do here is to come back here and then just override get task by label project, and here we'll just return the fake value, which basically task 2 with a project name Flutter, and yeah, task 2. Now let's run that test. Now it says that we look for one widget, but it actually found 2 widget. So it's because we also show the project name here, so it's just trying to identify the one project here and one project here. So we'll replace that, find n widget, which is basically 2. So it should find the title on the top plus the task inside it, and let's run it again. Now the test passed. So here our aim is to not actually test the database implementation, but the UI implementation on how we click, and the exact function has been called, and based on the values written by those function, we are able to render those elements on UI. Because our aim is not to have the number of unit test or integration test. Our aim is here to have as much as code testable first, and then we can refactor it to a different structure, and then we can have an individual part tested there. So the first, our focus is to create a safety net. Now we have started to see the issue on why static getter is not supposed to use like app database as a global dependency, because we cannot easily replace it. So we need to use this dependency injection mechanism in order to fake that dependency in test. In more complex app, you will have a lot of those dependency. For example, the API call dependencies, a payment service or a syncing service, or something connecting to Firebase and listening to those streams. So there would be a lot of dependencies in a more complex app. So currently the side drawer only use the app database, but if it is using more dependency where you need to merge all those dependencies together and show something on a UI, then it will be really tricky to inject all those dependency here into one by one and then faking it and then testing it. So that's why global dependency are not recommended. Now since we have written this test, now let's see how much code we have covered so far. So all the tests are passing. We'll generate the HTML, and earlier it was 53.1, so let's just refresh it. Now it's 61.9, and we can see that now it's covering the updated task by project part. And if we come to the side drawer, which is also covering this project selection part. So now we have increased our coverage from 53 to 61.9. So it's a good progress. Now we have increased our coverage from 53.61.9%. We can still write some more tests to cover the remaining part. Our aim would be to have 100%, but it's not a real target. Sometimes you don't get 100%, you'll get around 80 or 90%. So here, since we are trying to refactor the home screen, so we'll try to cover as much as code path as possible. So we have already done for updated task by projects, and let's do that for the remaining updated task by label, which look pretty much similar. So I'll just go through over that very quickly. So now let's just, since we wrote the test for label, just see how much coverage we have done so far. So we'll just update our coverage base, and earlier it was 61.1, but if we go to the home drawer now, it's 70.1, because now we are covering the update task label method as well. And if we see on a side drawer, we are updating that as well. So now we have pretty much covered a good amount of that, 70%. Also, since we are writing tests for home screen, it's also started to cover the code for a side drawer. So if you go to the side drawer, it's also, you can see it's covered 66.9% of a code, since we were writing tests for that. So if you see, we are able to test update label and update project here as well. And on the remaining code part, so there is still one part which is remaining, a date selection. I'm keeping this as an exercise for you, just to update the task and verify the dates if it's being set correctly. And we still have another part which is basically on dismiss, which is being called on swiping left and right. So we can also have a test for that, which I'll cover in the next video. And also we have a test to navigate to a new screen and updating tasks based on that. Similar here, like navigating to a new screen. So we can write tests for those as well. So to conclude, if you don't find something to click, just add a key or try something new. Like for a drawer, we need to drag from left to right in order to open the drawer. And also don't try to follow all the steps to create a fake data. For example, here, if we want to have a label, we don't need to go to the add project screen or add label screen, add a label there and then filter it out. Instead, we can just fake the required data which we need in order to test the thing we want on the home screen, and just fake those data and just write a test against that. And just keep the coverage tool handy. Just rerun it whenever you write a test and see what are the part you are still missing. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll see how to test gesture, how we can write tests for scroll and swipe gesture in the next video. So if you like this video, then please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.